YCUSD Unified Governing Board back to order. Okay. If we could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Legally, we can't take you seriously with that.
You're assuming we ever did.
I know. Moving forward, are there any requests for agenda reorganization this evening? Okay, hearing none, we have nothing to report out of closed session. We're going to go ahead and recess our regular meeting to.
So, number 8, student reports.
Good evening, board members and audience members. YC has been very busy these past 2 weeks. 2 weekends ago, we held the Panu Classic Tournament. It's a wrestling tournament for JV boys and girls. We had almost 13 schools participate, and that's a lot of students. Our wrestlers did amazing, and they all placed. And then last weekend, our wrestlers participated in the Battle of Youth tournament. That's at Harvey. Yet again, our wrestlers did really good, and most of them placed. Basketball has kicked off, and our boys and girls are doing amazing. This past Friday, we had the Melgood Rally tournament, and we had a rally at school to just get all of our students packed up and ready for the game. It was a lot of fun. We invited RV to come, and their team participated in some games along with our boys basketball. And our students have been diligently working and studying for those finals this week, and we're excited for the break, but also ready for the news for the semester. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening to the school board and audience. I first wanted to check in if there were any new decisions or updates on the baseball light situation. Until the baseball team brought it up, I didn't realize that was such an issue. And to put into perspective, our basketball teams, girls and boys, would have just finished their practice around 9 p.m. when we ended our meeting last month, but baseball has to finish around 5 or 6 because it gets very dark around then. Are there any new updates?
This is a Q&A session, is it? No.
I'm sorry then. I was just hoping the school board would take this into consideration and think about it. It would not only help our baseball and softball teams a lot, it would also help them play more competitively if they had more time to practice. And going off into what we've been doing these past few weeks, we finished our Winter Spirit Week, where we had our Winter Festival. RV was able to let our home school clubs and local food truck businesses come out, and our students could support them by buying from them. It was great fun, and there was a lot of amazing food going around. And we also had a lot of fun that week with dressing up, like ugly sweater day, pajama day. Also, our last day for our Angel Tree was Monday, yesterday, and I'm pleased to announce that all of our Angel Tree gift tags were taken, so all of our students or all of the kids in need on there were able to get their gifts. We're really happy to be part of creating a great holiday for them. This past weekend, we also participated in the Battle of the Buttes. Our wrestling team did, and among the 34 teams that participated or the schools, RV placed second. We're so proud of them, and that's a great achievement. Also yesterday, our basketball girls had a game, and they also won against Elron, our varsity girls. So we're really proud of them as well. Going to the next semester, our school admin have decided to move our Falcon Hour to Wednesday. Falcon Hour is an hour that we take out of class usually on Thursday, that students can meet with teachers that they need help in and classes in, and just have that hour to study. Now we moved it to Wednesdays, and it makes it easier for the students now that they only have one weird schedule instead of 2 different schedules throughout the week, or 3 different. We actually just had a Falcon Hour today to help our students prepare for our finals, which are Thursday and Friday. After this will be their last day in these classes, and River Valley students will have new classes next semester, and we're hoping they excel in those just as they will in these. Thank you so much, and have a great winter break.
Moving on to staff recognition, 9.1, employee recognition.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, staff, and audience members. Tonight, we're excited to recognize some exceptional district staff who helped shape our culture of excellence. We know staff recognition increases productivity, promotes employee retention, and encourages continuous improvement, all of which has a positive impact on students and helps Yuba City Unified achieve its mission statement of preparing the foundation for each student to build tomorrow's world. With that, I'll pass the podium to our site managers who will present tonight's certificates of excellence. We'll start with Principal Greco from Andros Carpero School.
Prepared about a 20-minute speech.
We're ready.
You ready? Okay. I'm going to look at you part-time, but I'm also going to look back here. Okay. So we're here tonight to celebrate, first of all, Elizabeth Salazar. So I want to tell you just a few things about Miss Salazar as we get started. First of all, family is central to her life, and that shows in her work, and you'll see that. Here with her tonight, she has her whole family. Part of the recognition tonight is so that you guys know some of the stellar employees you have working for you. But part of it, because of her sacrifices that she puts through for the school, is for her family and her boys to be able to hear everything that she does in order to make AK a better place. So when we get to a school site as an administrator, we generally know, whether we like it or not, our lifespan at the school is going to be less than the teaching staff that you have there. And if you're doing your job, you're creating leaders within the site who are going to run the school and basically take charge and leadership of it. And that is Miss Salazar to a T. So when I first got to AK, she was already there. And she is part of a phenomenal 6th grade team. In the time that we've been there, we first said to her, as administrators do, hey, I've got to be programmed. Interested? And it was like, well, let's talk about that. Let's think. And then we took and sent her to a web training. And after the web training, she came back so excited, her and her teammate from web, Francisco. And they said, let's do this. This is going to be amazing. So from our web program, she's also running our leadership group. And what that looks like is this. Essentially, we're a super K, so we get kids coming in from other schools in the 6th grade. And there's always that kind of competition when kids have to show out in junior high. Creating a bridge for those kids to come in and understand the system, be able to run orientations where they have 8th graders who are paired up with 6th graders so they know someone at the school, they see the way we want to do things, the way it's going to run. That's what web is really all about. They've taken that to a whole nother level. So Miss Salazar's kids, they not only did amazing orientations, they have kids when we've bloomed. You guys probably see the enrollment numbers. We've gained a lot of kids this year. As kids come in the middle of the year, she has a group of ambassadors that come up, they greet the kids, they show them around the school, they make sure they have friends. This will eventually lead to partnerships up to the high school with their, so web is our version of your guys' link crew at the high schools, but it creates that link between them. Ms. Salazar runs that. If you guys don't follow Andros Carperos ASB on Instagram, I highly recommend you do, even if you don't love social media. The things that she has the kids doing there is amazing. If you look at what the high schools do, it's super entertaining. I love watching it for my own daughter. It kind of gives you a quick way to stay updated. What she has the kids doing there is absolutely outstanding. We actually have officers, they're showing up. She runs a snack bar at the games. We have a spirit cheer section, a mascot that comes out now. All of this is facilitated. The web program then from this are running all of our elementary award assemblies. So the junior high kids are now being involved like a true K-8 is supposed to be. So you get the older kids mentoring the youngers. You have kids running recycling programs, all these different things happening out of web. And that's just one of the many things that she's doing with leadership and web at the school. We moved to virtual reality this year. So we have virtual reality labs that allow the kids to be completely immersed. Some of that's college touring and being able to see what's there. But they're using it for so much more. And then beyond that, training the kids to be ambassadors. So when a new teacher decides they want to reach out and they want to do something, I want to get into virtual reality. The kids are able to go and help in that room with it. So again, making it student driven, that's all happening because of the work she does. Beyond that, the natural thing to say, pedagogically, if you ever want to go and see an amazing classroom, you want to see what the new furniture looks like when it's being used the way it was intended to, what it looks like with the booths and the cafes, kind of looking like a college setup. That's Ms. Salazar's classroom. Anytime I have anyone who comes to the school, that's the first place I want to take them because it's so warm and inviting for kids. The kids are always super excited, and a lot of the kids coming in the morning kind of have that, but outside Salazar's room, there's always kind of that energy of things that they're doing. I could go on and on about the things she's doing at the school and for the kids at the school. But I'm going to stop and just say that having her at the school is a blessing to us. It is one of those things that makes AK a better place. And as people like Ms. Salazar start to pick up the reins and take charge, you can really feel the energy picking up amongst the rest of the staff, amongst the students. You see it in the attitudes, you see it in the discipline rates, you see it in everything that's going on. The dances that are being run now by ASB and her leadership group. We've had 2 dances. The first one at the junior high, I believe we have 580 kids. We had over 540 in attendance. We've had no problems at the dances. We used to always have the little things you would deal with. Since she took over with leadership, we don't have any of that anymore. It's just, as an administrator at a school site, it makes my job better, it makes it easier, and you get to stop and kind of sit back and watch and just with a giant smile on your face at everything she's doing. So tonight I wanted to recognize for AK and on behalf of AK, Ms. Elizabeth Salazar.
With no post-its?
Perfect, thank you. So who gets being chaperones at dances? I'm sure they're ready.
Show it.
Sounds like some scarring over there.
Next, we'll have Principal McIntyre from Bridge Street School. That's my wife.
Well, I just want to again come up here and thank you guys for continuing the recognition of the staff that is out there working tirelessly for our kids. And when I put out the form to ask our staff who they would like to see recognized at this board meeting, it wasn't a surprise that Sue Grandin's name continued to pop up. And while we had to excuse her from leadership to make sure that as a team we were moving the person forward, it was unanimous across the team that she was definitely the one we wanted to recognize for this round. And when Sue came to us in 2019, she was walking into an extremely veteran 5th grade team where we had a retirement. And of course, you know, there was this panic around, well, who was going to be coming in? And Sue came in with a wealth of knowledge, a background, and immediately one of our 5th grade teachers came to me and she said, oh, thank God. I just feel so much better now that I know who it is. She's walked into our team. She's collaborative. She's working with us. And that's what she does. And part of our PLC process, our professional learning community process as leaders, as Sue sits on that team with our guiding coalition, was to really identify our strengths as leaders at our school. And Sue's strengths were commitment, growth, and encourager. And that's why she's standing here today, because she does have a commitment to her kids and to our staff and to our school and our families. And you see that in the way that she works at our site. Her growth model. She came in, she jumped in just before COVID hit, but that growth idea of wrapping around technology, sustaining that technology even when we came back, jumping right into Avid to ensure that 5th graders never skipped a beat with their skill set walking into middle and high school. Encourager. She is somebody that wants to see others succeed. I have made sure, even though she lives 45 minutes away, that she cannot leave, and she's assured me she will not. And so she does. She immerses herself in our community. She encourages at the site. She encourages when we're together as a staff off-site. Her husband and children are here. It's a testament to them building a community at Bridge Street. And we are really lucky to have Sue in our district, and I'm grateful that she's continuing to commute and that she will continue to commute, right? Yes. So we can keep her at Bridge Street because I want to echo what Rocco said. I mean, these are the people that are out there really, really putting that nail to the head and grinding and working and building community working the hours to make sure that our kids are receiving everything that they can and building that community of learners and sustaining it, and the rapport that she's building with our staff and families as well is just huge. And it's the relationships that will continue to make that school so great, and she is definitely one of the reasons that Bridge Street is as successful as it is. So with that, we just want to recognize Sue Brandon for the certificate and this award. It's very deserved.
Next up is Principal McPeak from River Valley High School.
Hello, governing board. How are we doing this evening?
Very good.
Good. You know, one thing that I share with all new teachers and new staff at River Valley High School is that it's one thing to be an educator, and it's one thing to be even a good educator, but it's one of the most unreasonable and most exceptional things on the planet if you're an amazing educator. And I get to present to you 3 amazing educators this evening, so I'm super excited about that. And apparently I can do them in any order. So here we go. The power. Power. Here we go. Brian, come on up. Mr. Fernandez. Come on up, Brian. Brian Fernandez is one of our campus supervisors at River Valley High School, and he's been doing this for a long time. Brian is also one of our coaches. He's coached baseball and coached football. He is one of our admin team's choice for the CARE nomination. Brian is an advocate and champion for RV's most challenging students. His incredible connections with kids across the campus continually detour and decrease unwanted behavior incidents. Brian is a positive male role model to all students and makes our campus safer. He is also a respected colleague and friend to the RVHS staff. If there was ever a work ethic and vision to build an argument for an official lead campus supervisor, CSEA, Brian is that guy. Brian is that guy. His colleagues share this. Brian cares about kids. He's a people person. He enjoys making RVHS safe for students. He's great at developing relationships with the most challenging students, and I've seen that firsthand. He's exceptional. He's friendly with staff. He has fantastic follow-through with procedures and complicated cases. He will not let me forget about any complicated cases, I'm sure. Very family-oriented. He has the pulse of the campus and the kids, and he feels what's going on. It is a feeling with Brian. He's solid, someone said. He relates and connects with students, builds relationships and trust with kids. Incredibly hardworking. He loves his job. And it was largely in part to Brian's idea that we now keep track of how long we go at River Valley High School without any type of incident, behavioral incident, like any type of either fighting or anything like that. And now Cy and I are in a contest. And we're seeing how many days we can go in a row. I think the longest is 19 right now. Is that right? Okay, yeah. So River Valley's got 19. So that seems silly, but it's actually not, because we now as a team rally around those numbers, and we get to the end of the day. Did we get another one? Did we get another one? And it increases this energy of proactiveness around campus. So Brian's a big part of that. So everyone, this is Brian Fernandez, and he's amazing.
Call Mr. Andrews. Until it's Mr. Twain.
You gotta take a picture.
Sorry, we keep the pictures. Well done.
Andrea, come on up. Andrea Drum.
Come on down.
Very good. Andrea is one of our fantastic counselors at River Valley High School. She is one of our admin team's choice for the CARE nomination. As Andrea closes in on her second year at River Valley, she's already proven herself to be a vital asset to the counseling team. Andrea has a genuine can-do attitude and strong work ethic. Her care and empathy for students is incredibly clear. Additionally, she balances her student interactions with a healthy sense of personal accountability, and in the counseling world, that is a challenging task, and she does an incredible job of that. She has now served as an effective leader for several counseling projects and shows incredible leadership potential. Andrea stands out as a counseling professional that RVHS is proud of, families rely on, and students benefit from. You're amazing at it, Andrea. You want to hear what your colleagues said about her? Okay. She's an amazing addition to the team. She's genuine when working with kids. I think she's awesome. She's very positive. I love her. She loves her job helping kids. She tries to make our students better. She's super friendly and great at her job. She balances being positive with kids but holds them accountable. She's absolutely my favorite. She's an all-star. Her personality is steady, solid, and low-key. She's a veteran in rookie form. We are so lucky to have her. She is a future lead counselor for sure. Everyone, Andrea Drum. Go. Come on, Andrea.
Dave? Okay, who's that? Need your permission. Okay, yes.
All right, Jana Collins, come on up. Jana. Jana and I go way back. Way back. She is a rock star. All right, Jana Collins is also an admin choice for the CARE nomination. Jana is a veteran teacher who has helped shape the success of RVHS. Her work with her computer science pathway is stellar. Additionally, her work as a mentor, ATOSA, and department lead have benefited the entire staff. Jana has an efficient, logical eye for school policy. Her institutional knowledge is frequently drawn upon by staff. Jana is a local legend in education as her performance, professionalism, and dedication to excellence and student success would be absolutely impossible to replace. You're fantastic. You want to hear what your friends and colleagues said about you? All right. Jana cares about kids. She's incredibly thorough. She's thorough. If you want to, oh my goodness, she keeps me in line. Kids speak very highly of her, and this person said, that's all you need to know when kids just, lift her up on a pedestal like they do. She's an incredible coworker, incredibly organized, and on top of things, she is a wealth of information. Maybe the same person that says love. She's so professional. Jana Collins is the epitome of professionalism. She is student-centered. She puts a lot into her work. She loves doing things the right way. She simply... It is absolutely possible. Jana is simply a rock. If you ever worked with her, she is the rudder in those harsh waters. She's amazing. She's a survivor. Someone you can count on. Jana has all the answers. Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you.
On the record. Can I audit you? What's the auditing status like?
Permission, Jeremy.
Hey, Jana.
Our last school representing tonight will be YCUSD High School and Principal Silas Olson.
All right, good evening. I am here to recognize the one and only Veronica Delgado. So, talk about legends in the district. For 14 years, Veronica's been hand-walking kids in every step of getting into college or post-secondary education. She is a relentless advocate for kids. She's a relentless advocate for equity. The kids love her to death. She brings kids on college tours. She graduates avid seniors every year, and we have a massive breakfast where many tears are shed. And so I couldn't say enough about Veronica. She's the mom of our campus, I guess I would say. And I think a lot of people would say that. So Lee kind of stole my thunder, but I did ask some folks to talk about Veronica. So I'll just read a couple, the ones that I thought were most profound. Veronica is a rare human being and truly a great teacher. She speaks for struggling students in a way that is always powerful, well-informed, and based on authentic caring. Veronica can be counted on to speak the truth about everything, and she is deeply kind. And she is very funny. That was Paul Loomis, who's retiring this year. And then this is another English teacher, Paul Steele. Over the last 37 years, I earned my credential. I have had the pleasure of working among some of the most amazing teachers California has. I count Veronica among the top. Her attention to detail, unwavering support of students, and her ability to be both assertive and diplomatic has served her students and Yuba City Unified very well. She is knowledgeable, friendly, open to suggestions, and yet firm in her convictions. Veronica is a great role model and a superb teacher. Our teacher of the month, Veronica.
Makes me want to audit a whole bunch of classes. If you ever want to see anybody team teach,
Yes, with Melinda House, yeah.
amazing.
That's right.
Just like that, thank you.
Thanks, you.
Yay,
Moving on to reports and information, 10.1, maybe public hearings. You guys don't want to stay for this part?
Wait, we were just getting to CSDA and then.
I'm kidding, you guys can go have a great night. Enjoy.
I want to introduce. So I want to introduce Kathy Domenico. She's with Capital Public Finance Group. She is the district's financial advisor, and she is going to speak to the public hearing. She's also going to touch on, we have a couple action items later in the agenda, 13.7, 13.8, that she's going to address to some extent as well. But essentially the public hearing is in regards to joining the California Statewide Communities Development Authority and really hoping to participate in the statewide community infrastructure program. A lot of words and acronyms, but that's what Kathy is here to kind of break down for us.
Hi everyone, and I clear a room every time I think it happened last time too. Thanks for having me back. You may recall I was here at your November meeting and we went through kind of a laundry list of funding options that are available for schools in California to fund facilities needs. And I mentioned in that presentation that I was going to be coming back to you tonight to talk about one component that we are looking for some board consideration of. And in order for the board to consider the item, we need to first hold a public hearing. But it's important that you understand and that the community understands what this item is about. So as Scott mentioned, I do want to give you a little bit of an overview. So I'm going to present on the items that you're going to be considering later in order for the community to provide some testimony now in the public hearing itself. Typically when we do this, we have kind of this initial presentation, do allow for some board questions because it's hard to ask the questions later on in the agenda after you've forgotten the information. And then we usually open up the public hearing, let the community come up, and then see if there's any additional board questions. You won't take action at the public hearing, you'll take action later in the agenda on both of the items. So that's kind of typically how this works. So from that last presentation in November, you may recall school districts are allowed to charge what are called developer fees. And that's a way for school districts to mitigate the impacts of new development on the district. Basically, you set a standard, you set a fee, and when new development occurs, you're able to collect that fee and spend it on eligible capital improvements. This isn't something that goes into the general fund, it's something that's capital facilities restricted, and it's money that's to be spent to accommodate those students from new development. The state caps the amount of money that you can charge as a school district on new development. And you as a school district must also adopt a fee study called a nexus study that justifies the amount of the fee that you charge. This district currently charges $4.08 per square foot of new residential development and 66 cents per square foot of non-residential development. Fees are paid at building permit as the development occurs. So if you're thinking of a larger subdivision, you would get fees kind of in little increments as the developer is pulling building permits. So you would save those fees, and once you get them all in, you can then spend it on the improvements needed to accommodate those kids from the development projects. As you can imagine, for some of the larger subdivisions, it could take several years before you collect all of the fees from the projects. The build out happens over a period of time. So you could be waiting and collecting over time before you're able to spend the money on the capital improvements needing to accommodate those kids. So the first home built, you're going to be seeing kids from the schools before you have saved up enough money to spend the money on the improvements. So I want you to kind of hang on that concept because we're going to come back to it in a few minutes. I want to now go into kind of the developer side of the conversation. So when developers and home builders are planning these residential units and these subdivisions, they have to work out a funding plan with the land use agency. In this case, when I talk about land use agency, I'm talking about Yuba City. So it would be the city itself that is the land use agency that they work with. And they've got to come up with a plan to pay for all the public infrastructure and facilities needed to support their project. So think about roads, sewers, water lines, parks, fire stations, and of course schools. And they have to put this all into a big funding plan and demonstrate, number one, for their own purposes that the project can pencil, but also to the city that the project is a viable project. They typically use a combination of funding tools in order to deliver this overall funding plan. They cash fund some of the projects at building permit, just like they traditionally do with schools. They also cash fund some of the improvements. Sometimes they will cash fund underground infrastructure. They also use financing mechanisms to finance the cost of some of the improvements. And you probably are familiar, we talked about it last time, about community facilities districts, or CFDs. You have one. It's used as a tool for not just school districts, but also cities and counties and other agencies as a way for developers to fund public infrastructure improvements. And they pay for some ongoing services costs through these CFDs and also what are called assessments. So they package all those things up into an overall funding plan. So that's kind of the development concept. When a city is setting forth this funding plan and the parameters for the funding plan, they also set forth what that means to the community. And they'll set what's called a tax burden threshold. Typically, that's somewhere between 1.6 and 2% of the value of the home. In other words, when you're doing this development funding plan, the developer can impose taxes or assessments up to somewhere between 1.6 and 2% of the value of the home. And Yuba City has set a maximum tax burden within their jurisdiction of 2% of the value of the home. The developer then can use a combination of these taxes and fees up to that 2% threshold. That doesn't mean that the developer themselves is charging 2%. That 2% is made up of your general 1% property taxes that everybody has. They'll look at school bonds that exist. Those will be layered on top. Any other existing taxes or assessments are included in that. And then they are left with whatever's on top of that, whatever the room is, in order to fund all of the public improvements. They may or may not go all the way up to the 2%. The 2% is kind of a high threshold. Typically, I see those projects go up to about 1.8% of the value of the home in order for the project itself to pencil. But your city has set that threshold at 2%. So then there are a couple tools that these developers use to facilitate delivering that combination of how they're funding all the infrastructure and how they fit within that tax burden. One of the tools is called the SCIP program. So it stands for the Statewide Community Infrastructure Program. And it is simply a mechanism that is really a CFD that is formed through a statewide joint powers authority that provides some economies of scale. And it provides a more cost-effective way to finance that infrastructure and all of the facilities needed for the development project. And so it's a program they can use when they're putting it into their development package. It allows for the developers to finance all of their mitigation obligations through the program, again, up to whatever that tax burden threshold is that's set by the land use agency. Yuba City is actively using this. So they're planning to use the SCIP program and they are using the SCIP program for all of their development projects that are in progress. And you as a school district recently have the option to join into the SCIP program and use it as a tool for the developer to use to finance school fees. If you choose not to do that, the city is going to continue to use this as a tool, and the developer will still finance all of their infrastructure needs, again, up to that 2% threshold. But you do have the opportunity to participate and have the school fees be paid from that piece of the pie as well. Why would we do that? That's probably your most important question. It really does not provide on its face the district with any additional funding. Remember, I mentioned that you have justified developer fees, they're capped by the state, but it would provide it to you in one lump sum. And it's typically at the beginning of the project. So you would basically, if you approve something today and there's an application in front of you today, which there is, they will be issuing bonds actually within the next 6 months. So you would have one lump sum payment for an entire development project up front instead of waiting for the fees to be collected at building permit. The other thing that I like about this program is that it provides you with an option. It provides your staff with an option in the event that we have the opportunity to negotiate for something better than your standard mitigation fees. Because typically, we would let the development know that the standard capped mitigation fee is not enough to fund all of our capital needs. And I know you just had an exercise last week on the vast amount of capital funding needs that you have. Developer fees are not enough to fund even a share of what their impacts are. So providing an alternative tool for the development also provides us with a mechanism to negotiate for more than what the legally maximum statutory fee is for development mitigation. This district used to receive more than that statutory fee. You have an existing CFD. In the past, any new development was required to join the CFD and they would pay more than the typical capped developer fee. You no longer, the city is no longer requiring developers to join in that existing CFD, so you no longer have a mechanism to negotiate with developers for them to provide more than that statutory maximum. We're looking at this as an opportunity to begin those discussions for future development projects. The SCIP program is sponsored by a joint powers authority called California Statewide Communities Development Authority. It's referred to as CSCDA. I mentioned it's a joint powers authority. It's made up of about 500 cities, counties, special districts, and a handful of school districts. Although SCIP was formed, this program was formed back in 2002, it has only recently been opened up to school districts. They changed the legal funding mechanism that they use, which now enables a school district to participate. Previously, they used a funding mechanism that didn't allow for school district participation. There's a competing program that is used statewide. It's called the BOLD program. That was open to school districts, which is why SCIP transferred over. BOLD has been successfully used by several, and it's the same concept. It's been successfully used by several school districts in some of these developing areas. There's a lot in Placer County that use it. I work with Western Placer, Roseville City, Roseville High, Dry Creek. They all participate in the program, and there are several in the Central Valley that participate in that BOLD program. The SCIP concept is the same, but you don't have the laundry list of school districts that have used it because it just recently became open to schools. There is no cost to a public agency to participate. The CSDA is responsible for ongoing administration of the program, not the school district, so it's not something that you have to pay for ongoing administration. CSDA is funded from the bonds they issued themselves. So that's something that happens separate. It doesn't impact the amount of money you get out of the program. Whatever mitigation amount you'd be entitled to, that's what you would receive if you choose to participate in the program. The tax bills would say CSCDA SCIP program. They would not mention Yuba City Unified. In order to participate in the program, the district has to join the CSCDA, JPA, how many acronyms am I getting used today? They have to first join the JPA and authorize the use of SCIP. So, but that action item alone does not actually get you any funding. That action item simply allows you to use this funding mechanism as a tool for future development. You would then need to take a separate board action in order to accept an application from a developer to use the program, and you would accept an application in a certain dollar amount. So you would say, okay, this development project is going to require mitigation fees of this X dollar amount. We are going to accept the application for this dollar amount to participate in the SCIP program, and we accept a lump sum payment, expect a lump sum payment no later than this date. So there would be the first action item, and it's on your agenda today, is to consider joining the JPA and authorizing participation in the SCIP program. Then for every individual project that would like to use SCIP as a tool, your board would consider their application, the funding amount, and when the money would be delivered to the district, and you could decide on an individual basis on whether you would authorize the use of the SCIP program for that particular project. So on your agenda today, I mentioned is that one resolution authorizing the use, but there's a second item, and that's related to a specific project that has applied to the district for use of the program, and it's through D.R. Horton. They have already been approved by the city and actually are looking to start pulling building permits pretty quickly. It is a 77-unit single-family residential project, and what is it called? Harder Estate South project. The district would receive about $607,000 from this project based on the size and mix of the units, and they are asking to finance the entire amount through this SCIP program and are anticipating that they would issue bonds within the next 6 months, meaning the district would actually receive the proceeds from the SCIP program within the next 6 months. So they are asking, they're the reason that we're even bringing this concept to you. They've asked if the district would consider participating in the SCIP program, number one, and number two, if you would authorize their application for funding their mitigation fees. So with that's kind of the concept in front of you. I know that's a lot of information. I want to make sure your questions are addressed, and then I would recommend opening up the public hearing.
I just have a quick question to see if I'm following along. You mentioned something about the fees. We were originally asking for more than the 2%, I believe.
Not more than 2%. So you were asking for more than the statutory maximum. So you collect developer fees of $4.08 per square foot.
Yeah.
The state caps the amount of those fees that you can charge, and you previously were charging more than what the state caps that rate to be. Different than the 2%. The 2% is all of the fees and taxes on that development project.
So the $607,000 that we would potentially receive from D.R. Horton, is that the developer, like the per square footage type?
That's the translation of the per square foot fee into what you would receive in one lump sum instead of getting it over time.
Okay, so
you would receive it either way.
Yeah, but in essence, it would be when do we receive is really like.
You got it.
Okay,
you're right on.
So you're not having to wait for all the homes to be built, like, they just pay you.
They pay you up front.
And so it's not really like, there's nothing, I don't really see like a downside. I mean, is there a downside? I mean, sure there is.
Well, here's where the downside would be. And in theory, if, as I mentioned that 2% cap, if we were gonna push the amount of money funded in the CFD beyond where it would otherwise be, we would be burdening our taxpayers more than the project otherwise would. That's not how this is set up. So that would be the downside. So if the developer came to us and said, instead of paying fees, we want to join the SCIP program. The city's not using the SCIP program. We just want you to use it. We would actually be forming a CFD and adding a tax burden to the property that doesn't already exist. That's where the downside comes in. And that could happen. I want to say that you could get a future application in front of you that is simply a school district. They want to finance school district fees through the SCIP program. The city is not using it. In that situation, I would have a different conversation with you. I would say, okay, you could do it and you would get the money up front, but there's going to be a tax on the tax bill that wouldn't otherwise exist. In that case, I want you to think through whether it's worth it for you to add a line item to the tax bill to collect your fees. In the situation of the DR Horton project in particular, they are using the SCIP program to fund all of the other infrastructure, and they are going to fund it up to the same threshold, and they actually told us 1.8%. They're going to fund it up to 1.8% regardless of whether the school district participates or not. If the school district doesn't participate, that 1.8% will be made up from other agencies. They'll just put a different agency in there, whether it's levy district or something else, so that they are financing up to that 1.8%. So in this situation, there isn't a downside, but there potentially could be. And so we want to make sure that every application that you have, you understand what that risk is. And Scott and I would work together to make sure as you're getting future applications, you would understand that and make that informed decision.
So, my question would fall in, obviously, these developments typically take years.
Yes.
Right? So, but if we agree on a threshold, it's the, price per square foot, or it's the cap of 2%, but it sounds like the downside would also be obviously inflation. So if we did it on if we were more patient, I suppose you could say, the cost of the square footage goes up, and thereby our fees also, and what we would reclaim. Potentially,
but you also have to think of the time value of money. And so you're able to take the money and invest it today and spend it on the capital facilities improvements that are exponentially increasing at a much faster pace than what the increase in cost and what you can collect in the fees would be.
Right, so that is an accurate statement, correct?
Yes, so but when you play out the numbers,
yeah.
So if the cost of schools is increasing by say 17% or 23% a year, and you're able to take the money today and actually spend the money on the improvements today, you're hedging that inflation bet on the other side as well, because you're not paying the escalated cost of construction.
Right.
So that's why districts have chosen to do it, because you're getting the money today instead of having to save it up, and you can't catch up. The fees increase every 2 years, and you can't catch up to the actual inflation rate on the construction side. Right. So that's the actual financial benefit.
Right, so there's a subdivision going in where the homes were supposed to be like 550 and now they're at 670.
Yeah.
Where they're building them that much higher.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so
a lot.
That burden, that 1.8% is the value of whatever the home is when they sell it. So in some of these funding plans, they do have a graduated tax threshold. We don't even have the ability to do that given our constraints from state law. So we can't charge more than that statutory maximum fee unless we have a separate agreement with the developer. Does that make sense? So we can charge $4.08 a foot. We could adopt a new fee study at $4.79 a square foot. That's the state maximum right now. That's more money that we could collect. But if the value of the property goes up to $800,000 and they're able to collect more under that 1.8%, we still are stuck with the same number that we're stuck with today. Mm-hmm. Unless we enter into a separate mitigation agreement that gets us more money. That's the only way we can get more, even if the value goes up.
Well, in essence, because you're just getting money, you're recouping money based on square footage. It's not like you're getting an astronomical amount if we end up charging 20 cents more per square foot.
Right. When
you're talking about houses that are 25 to 3,500 square feet.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And the other thing is,
it's a one-time fee too. It's not like a reoccurring tax.
Correct. If they change the square footage and you've already received your lump sum amount, it doesn't eliminate their requirement to pay you the difference. So if they say they're only building 1,200 square foot homes and they come in and build 3,000 square foot homes, they would have to pay you the difference between that lump sum amount you received and the value of what they're actually building. They don't lose we don't credit them for the whole amount. We credit them for what we received. If they end up doing something more, you get the benefit of that. You're not foregoing your right to collect fees.
Now, what happens if anything happens to the developer? Like, there's been developers where they were going to develop and then they go bankrupt and...
So in this situation, it's a community facilities district. Once you've received the proceeds, they're yours. The repayment source is the tax collections themselves. So when they're issuing bonds, when SCIP is issuing their bonds, they have to evaluate the credit quality of the bonds and whether there's a potential for default. So they're issuing bonds when they have enough value in the property to support the ongoing debt service on the bonds. They legally can't issue more than they have enough revenue to fund. But that actually is not on you, it's on them. So your obligation is to receive the fees. The developer is setting forth a parameter for how much they're providing you. You're receiving that through this application and this essentially it's a mitigation agreement. If they issue bonds and there are not enough homes to pay for the bonds, that's on CSCDA. And that would actually be their default. You've already received your money.
I think also, if I can add to that, don't they would package this developer with hundreds or whatever number of other developers. So as a pond investor, if one goes bankrupt, I mean, you're one of 100 or whatever the number is.
Yeah, they pool it statewide.
So that's the part of it, is they pool us together to make it less risky, I guess, to get the best interest rate for their bond investors.
They get it's lower cost to them to issue it in this.
So bonds have been risky, right? Haven't we seen that?
But yeah, but that
not
again,
tax exempt. These are
for
tax
investors,
exempt.
not for us. But yes,
Okay.
you're right. Yeah.
And these are higher credit quality tax exempt bonds. You're not going to see this. These aren't junk bonds. These are going to be rated bonds.
And you mentioned tax bills, and this is for the developers.
No. This is on an ongoing basis. So CFD is just like your existing community facilities district. It is an annual tax on the tax bill. So just like you have now, this would be another tax on the tax bill for only the property within the development. So these set in the DR were going to be for those 77 homes. It wouldn't apply to any existing homes or anybody else in the district.
So the homeowner would be paying it.
Correct.
So the developer initially is floating it, but then the homeowner buys the home and then they pay for it.
Correct.
For
this, I don't believe they've set a term because they haven't finalized the bonds, but it's typically 30 years. You don't usually see 40-year bonds. It could be 25 years.
so for the, really the
25 to 30
yeah,
years.
the life of the house, or 30 years, a little 30-year mortgage. So really, these aren't the fees that the developers. It's not the company paying us. These are homeowners.
Either way.
It's always. It's always
correct.
The fee. It's because that's what the government is. Government is the people.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
May I clarify something on the agenda, just so to be clear, they're out of order, so in order to take action, you would want to take action on 13.8 first, and then 13.7. So you would need to take the resolution first, and then the DH. How important.
So do we need to make a motion to
Not yet.
Where is that subdivision?
reorganize?
See if I've got the map in here.
Right, Causeway.
See if they are located.
Oh, those ones by the park, the houses by the park off of Ruth, they're off of Ruth.
Yeah, there's a new road punched through. I saw there's actually like two there. What was that?
Yeah,
They
two
didn't include
French.
the map.
I know where it is now, thank you.
I just have a general question, and this may not apply to you, but one of the things that has been brought up, and maybe it's near and dear to my heart, I don't know, is the lack of community parks. And with the subdivisions, we brought it up to our government liaisons meetings as well a few times, and I feel like sometimes it just gets kicked back, go talk to the city, go talk to the county, go talk to the developer, then it's it's on you guys. We've already had, we've done a lot within, for the school district, as far as the school district goes, opening schools to allow kids to be able to access green space. But I feel like, when you go to other communities like Sacramento, Roseville, you see those parks at every corner, it seems like, and our community doesn't have that. And so when we are essentially giving an incentive to developers to come into our area and utilize these types of programs, does it kind of mitigate the need or their, talking point on that,
It shouldn't. And the land use process is supposed to have several transparent steps. So when they go through the subdivision, and this is separate, this is what the city's doing. I'm representing you, but as a city, they have several public, transparent hearings that they are supposed to hold as they adopt these projects. And I really would encourage just that type of conversation. I don't think in this situation, they're able to use that as a direct talking point, but participating in a lot of those, even joint use conversations and how the schools and parks fit together, and the synergies there, I think it starts with just a grassroots conversation at the staff level of this is an interest, this is a need, we're seeing the need in our community, and then reinforcing it through the various public steps in the process and making sure that people are commenting about parks so that it's in their thinking at the planning commission level, at the city council level, so that it's incorporated into these specific plans. Because what I'm hearing is the specific plans that they're providing don't have what you're considering to be enough park space to support the population. And there should be a plan in the subdivision map act, which is the process they follow to adopt these specific plans, that you would have the ability to voice that concern and the school district to voice that concern.
So with all of this in mind then, thinking of our community, right, which will be the homeowners. So if we go forward with the SKIP program and let's say we negotiate the fees and inflation does what inflation does, okay? And building cost does what building cost does. And it goes up, let's say, the cost per square foot, the value of the home goes up, let's say, by 20% from the time we do this till the time, right? They actually move in. The homeowner on the tax bill would not be paying the fee that they would have. Like, remember my earlier comment with regards to one of the benefits to waiting it out, so to speak, is the actual, you get more money, right, as far as because of the cost inflation goes up, right? You would get more, to your point, which I totally hear, you also get the money earlier and are able to pay for your improvements on this end of inflation rather than that end of inflation. So it's kind of a catch-22, probably. But my point is that the end user, the one actually paying for this, right, who is the homeowner every year on that tax bill that we all love getting so long, is that they would be reaping the benefit of an earlier fee because they wouldn't be paying more than we negotiated.
And I don't think so you're able to charge whatever the fee is you can justify. Although you may be able to get, instead of $408 a square foot, you may be able to get $479 a square foot, because that's where the state number is. They're not going to change their fee for the school component because their value went up. We can charge whatever it is we can charge, regardless of what the value of their home is. Our fee has nothing to do with the value of their home. This 2% threshold has to do with the city and all of the other infrastructure that's going in. So the city could choose to go in and increase that tax burden, and they probably will. So they may throw other things, other line items into the SKIP program, but it actually doesn't change what we can do or what the homeowner would see from the school district per se. So I don't know if I'm getting your question correctly. Our fees are fixed. They aren't a percentage of the value of the home. They're just on a per square foot basis.
And so it's at the time of build.
Yeah, and it's at the time of building permit. So it's not.
Right, that's when we get it, that's when it's charged, but the taxpayer is paying for it.
Yes, but I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not based on the value of their home. The tax burden is based on the value of their home. The amount that the school district is getting is completely independent.
So that will stay the same regardless of if we join the SKIP program or if we don't.
Exactly.
They will pay in the whole bundle of
everything, whatever it is.
Juicy taxes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And you still get the same amount, even if their value doubles. Your amount doesn't.
Yeah, so are you ready to go?
So you can, yes, but I just want to also just make sure that the agenda is reorganized because 8 has to go for 7 now.
No problem.
Thank you.
So do I just,
Yes, we know the public hearing.
I'm gonna go ahead and open the public hearing.
Thank you, Gabby.
Comments from the public?
Oh, now don't crowd. Don't crowd.
Okay, hearing none, I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing. And then we'll move on to any comments from the public on items not on the agenda? No? Okay. Are there any questions on the consent agenda?
Yes,
Okay, which one would you like?
I just have questions. Bear with me 1 minute. This is not.
Is it buffering?
It's buffering.
I missed my, I wrote a note, okay. I just have two. I have one on 12:10, and I have one on 12,
It's 12 one of the courses.
yes, there it is.
That's about the budgets.
Yes, on 12:1 and 12:10.
Can I get a motion on everything else besides 12:1 and 12:10?
A motion to approve?
Second. On a motion by member Ciociola and a second by member Lamb. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 12.1.
Yes, so my only question with this was, I noticed all 5 of your new course proposals had no budgets attached. So there was a place for a budget, and yet no numbers were filled in for any of them. So I was just wondering if there was a separate document that we should receive, or?
So on all 5 of the courses, so in terms of like staffing budgeting, there's no new staffing with these courses. These are all elective courses. These are all current teachers in our, 4 of them are CTE courses. One of them is a leadership course. So in terms of the staffing costs, there would be nothing. But you are right in terms of the cost of textbooks. The intermediate construction is a second course in our pathway that will start next year. There's no textbook for that, it's online. So there's no cost to the class on that. Any funds for any of these 4 courses would be, any supplies needed would be through CTIG, which is our Career Tech Education Incentive Grant, and our federal Perkins Grant. The Introduction to Agriculture, that would be a course, that would be one section next year, and the total cost for the books, if we have 30 students in the course, would be $5,100. That would come out lottery funding, or our CTIG funding. The business course, if we had one section, which we probably would have one section since it's an intro course, it's a new course, would be $5,000. And then the sports leadership course would be a total of $1,300 for 2 books for 30 students.
And all coming out of our CTE grant.
That would be the CTE grant would be the 4 CTE courses, and the leadership course would be out of the site funds. But pretty negligible costs for the courses, and there's no new staffing for any of the courses.
Okay, perfect. That was it.
Can I ask one question about the culinary arts?
Yeah. That was a revision to the course, not a new course.
And it's just an off the wall question, so just forgive me for being off the wall. I attended a dinner for the 100th year celebration for Yuba City High School. And I happened to sit next to a man who used to teach culinary arts at Yuba City High School back, like when I would have been in high school in the 70s. And they used to have, like across the street from Yuba City High School, where now is the theater, the little theater, used to be like a little restaurant that the kids ran.
Honker something.
Yeah, Honker Hilton.
Honker Hilton.
And I was just wondering, is there any plan within the culinary arts CTE to open it up so kids could have like a real world experience with culinary arts and that business?
I'd like to actually recognize briefly Mr. Ramirez. He's our CTE coordinator. Any plans for future expansion of the CTE culinary arts program?
We'll gladly begin the exploration of the feasibility of such an initiative. Absolutely, we'll look into it.
Sounds like fun.
We would volunteer to be first customers.
Yeah.
Your first board meeting then when it opens up, grand opening.
There you go.
Thank you.
Well,
those were all my questions.
We'll save public comment. And then, so can I get a motion on?
I'd motion to approve 12.1.
I'll second it.
You can include 12.10 as well.
Oh, well, I have questions.
Okay, so.
Do you wanna wait for the end of 12? We're just doing 12.1. And I've already motioned to accept it.
Motion by member Susio, second by member Pretty. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 12-10.
12.10, okay, these are the contracts, but specifically, I just wanted to ask a question regarding Wellness Together. So on the staff report, Wellness Together, 37,000. Specifically, consultation and coaching service for conflict resolution for the IT department. So, why are we, what is this? For the IT department to learn conflict resolution, or are they teaching conflict resolution, or?
Yes, and yes. So there's been a lot of change in the IT department over the last year or so, and this is we really believe that this will help the department kind of move forward and also come together as a team, which has been pretty difficult. So that's what we're looking for out of this this contract. It's really it's going to be kind of a lot of listening and bringing people together, and also just coaching for the staff to just move the department forward in a positive way.
I'm sorry, I'm just gonna make a comment. So this is, maybe this is out of left field, thank you for bringing the question up. But to me, that's kind of coming out of like left field, hearing about like concerns within the department and there being a need for conflict resolution. Or training or whatnot. Is this something that's like necessary to approve tonight, or is it something we can table for January?
You can. I would recommend we approve it. This is an area that I think will be very beneficial to the district and the department. But if you want, of course, you don't have to approve it tonight.
Well, my primary questions, first of all, obviously seeing it, and when I know our 3 goals, right? We consider students always. Everything that we do has to be student driven. The end user is the students. But coming from the private industry, of course, and we all understand the benefits of knowing how to have a good fight, like a mature, not fisticuffs, not like Mr. 19 Days, like nothing like that, but to how to have reasonable discourse and solve problems, because you don't get away from conflict. I guess my question here is that with the tenure and the model of our current leadership, right? I mean, in every situation, like, is that not what, as like leaders, they do? Every department leader, the district office, every site, there are that is their job, is to be the model and to bring the team in and understand, okay, what's your stripe of the beach ball, and bring those together. So that
So I'll tell you, we've gone through several steps of exactly what I believe what you're talking to, as far as leadership, working with staff, and making improvements. And at this point, we think this is the best path forward.
Is to have a disinterested third party come in and do 3. This is for 3 sessions, right? Is that what I think? That's what I read the agreement was. That's what was in the contract. $4,500 for 3 development presentations at $1,500 each, and then 106 hours of consulting, coaching services at $350 per hour, right? So that's a lot.
I personally would like to pull this particular contract out, and then revisit it.
Yeah.
I agree. Anybody else?
I agree.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate a little bit. If this is something that if a department has been struggling and they've tried every avenue and now they are at the point of reaching out to get some outside help to move it forward, I think that personal relationships and being able to work together in a very collaborative way is very important. And if the team has gotten to a stalemate and needs some help moving forward, I think prolonging it will just make it worse.
And I would agree with that. My concern, or not my concern, but my, I guess, hesitancy is that I would like a little bit more information on like what's going on, because it hasn't been shared with, like, I haven't personally, maybe I shouldn't be speaking to this, or maybe I should, but I don't think we've gotten any communication.
So again, remembering the role of the board, and so there are times where there are matters that aren't always brought to the board. And so what I'm going to also support Assistant Superintendent Bentley in this matter is that there have been conversations. There's been conversations with not just the leadership team, but also the staff themselves in terms of how do we move forward? Because I agree with Member Pretty, it's a relationship and both parties need to understand how to communicate and that things may be different, but how do we move forward past this? And so part of this was my conversation with some of the staff members regarding their thoughts about bringing outside parties to help so that there's not a perception that anyone's picking anyone's side, but to be able to help conversations and have, and you're right, Kirsten, is in terms of having adult conversations and it not be behind people's backs and having direct, honest conversations to be able to move forward. And I actually was meeting with this person who's actually a former HR person about another matter, and in talking with this individual, I asked the question of, do you also do this? Because I thought it might be a healthy way for one of our departments to be able to work together, to be able to work collaboratively and work as a team. And I think, change is always hard, change in leadership is always hard, and I think that sometimes it's styles, but I do think there is a common interest and goal in terms of working together to move forward and to bring someone in who, again, has HR experience to help us move forward in doing this. But I understand it's you haven't heard a lot about this, but I think it's always, I generally think that it's always good we bring in often, different, PDs to work with our schools. They work with Solution Tree on PLCs, and that is about forming leadership, not only from the administrator, but also incorporating the staff as leaders, because I want everyone to take on a leadership role, and I think this is an opportunity for that department to come together, work together, and work as a team, and for all of them to be leaders in that department, to have a voice, and to have the goal of having one of the top IT departments, in California, and I think that is their motivation. But I think that they were asking, because they came to a variety of us asking for, we want this to work, but things are not working. And so again, when I met with Steve from Wellness Together, that was my conversation, but we were meeting on a totally separate matter. But I felt like this might be a good opportunity for that department.
Well,
Can I ask a really quick one? Has this been a problem ongoing, and has it been elevated because you brought them all back to one location? Has that elevated this situation?
I think there's been a lot of change over the years. They've gone through a number of different directors, and also, yes, I think there has been some change, and I think progressive change. But I also, with a new director and how they're doing things, all the change makes a ton of sense from my perspective. But change is not easy for people. So this was, I appreciate, I appreciate Superintendent Osumi bringing this concept, to the department and to me. I think that actually we've seen a lot of progress, even with these hurdles. But I think this is just, every department, every student, every staff depends on our technology. And I just think this is such an important department that supports the entire district. We're really hoping that this will kind of facilitate things going forward.
Right. I I guess, look, my question, isn't about just wanna reiterate, conflict resolution, everybody's gotta know how to do it. And I have to say, one of the most formative books I ever read in leadership was Fierce Conversations, because people have a difficult time having real, not personal or emotional, just factual conversations, and it is very growing, and I wish
everybody would read that book.
it's so good, it's so good, and I love that. So I guess, so from that perspective, and of course, none of us are in the weeds. Like we don't see that, we don't know, and we want our people to have the tools that they need to be successful, because, like you mentioned, it will be the end user. They will, everyone using all of the technology. I guess my concern with this contract is it's a lot. This isn't just like, well, let's, like have a person come in, read the book, we work through, because I did that Fierce Conversation seminar, and it was 4 hours, and I read the book ahead of time, and we sat there with the moderator, and it was awesome. I loved it. I would totally do that again. But this is a lot, so I guess my question is, like, not only like, okay, well, so they need a third party, so they need somebody doesn't have a horse in the race to come in and mediate, but like this looks like over the shoulder kind of stuff, like in the weeds with them. Is that what we're doing with Wellness Together?
Yeah, so it is actually. So the facilitator is going to meet with all the staff, through several sessions, and have several sessions together as well. So I can't tell you I know exactly what's going to, what the facilitator and its facilitator, exactly what's going to happen there, but. The process is pretty involved with the entire department.
But to go from zero to that, there was nothing in between. There wasn't a PD in between there. Aside from all the intervention, all the things that you all and your team have been working on the ground, right?
I think that, because I have heard from a few of our constituents about, within the IT department, I've heard from some people that things have been pretty rocky. I know that there have been a lot of inroads at trying to make things better, but I do believe, based on things that people have shared with me, that they are really feeling the need for this to happen fairly quickly. And I know that maybe not all of us have been contacted by people, but I have been. I'm in favor of doing this.
Yeah. I recognize the significant cost too, but I also recognize that that's the smallest expenditure in that particular item. So,
for such a important, the teachers, the students, everybody in this district is affected by how well our IT department runs. That's just the way the 21st century is.
Right.
So if they are expressing a need, I think that without having to get into the weeds of what the problems are,
right,
or knowing all the ins and outs of it, if this is something that is felt to be necessary, I personally am very much in favor of it.
Can I get a motion? One way or the other?
I move that we approve.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by member Pretty and a second by member Quilty. Need roll call, or is it fine?
We'll do roll call.
Let's do roll call. Okay. Member Ciosiel?
Yes.
Member Jami? Yes. President Tommy? You can say Johnson. I'm totally fine with that.
Yes.
Please, preferred. Member Quilty?
Yes.
Member Pretty?
Yes.
Member Roscoe?
yes.
Thank you. Okay, perfect, motion carries. Number 13.
Definitely.
Actually, item 13.1, expulsion, suspended contracts and revision. These recommendations.
I move that we approve as discussed in closed session.
Second.
A motion by member Pretty and a second by member Viola. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. 13.2, student attendance calendar for 24-25.
Educational Service Department has worked with our calendar committee and partners on developing a school calendar. 2 student attendance calendars. One is for YCAA and APHS out of Powell High School, and the other one is for all the other schools. Looking at the 2 calendars, the main difference for next year would be we would start later in the school year versus earlier. We would start 5 days later than we did this year. The Christmas break, the winter break would be 2 weeks versus 3 weeks. There was some strong discussion around an October break, but we moved to have just a 3-day weekend in October, mid-October, to get kind of a breath for the students and the staff during that long stretch from August to November. It's a pretty long stretch. The February break still stayed in there. There's a week-long break in February that we currently have, and the end date would still stay the same that first Friday of June.
And the Friday after Halloween is a PD.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Sorry. The Friday after PD day would be, the Friday after Halloween would be the PD day, which was strongly
That's amazing.
Right.
That is oh so amazing.
And then the difference on the Albert Cal calendar?
The difference, they still currently base our collective bargaining agreement, they still have a week at the end of September off. That's the main difference between both the calendars. So that means they start earlier to make up for that week off.
Any questions, comments?
I make a motion that we approve the student attendance calendar.
Second?
I'll second.
So going from the 3-week to the 2-week,
Christmas.
and that's something that the teachers and everybody are happy about?
And just like with any calendar, you're not going to get everybody to be happy.
Well, not everybody's ever going to be happy about anything.
But there was on both sides, there was debate on both sides of that. But overall, I think it's a favorable opinion to move forward with start later.
Yeah, because in order to start later, you have to have a 2-week break.
And that won't hurt attendance for people traveling out of the country at Christmas.
You know, when we went
We always have
from 2 weeks to 3
I
weeks.
know.
They're going to travel.
They take 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
So there's a motion by member Roscoe, second by myself. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 13.3,
Level intercession contract.
Thank you
So we
very
provide
much.
enrichment programs, ELOP, our expanded learning program during our intercession, and we currently use this company for our lunch and recess enrichment. This would just be an extension of that, and they provide like arts, music, they provide sports, just added enrichment for kids during intercession. It's a pretty, they're actually our CSBA conference too. We provide really good enrichment, and so we're seeking approval to continue to use it for our February and our intercession breaks.
And
Any questions? Comments?
yes, and so you've got 20 days for summer enrichment, and then 4 for February and 6. So you have 30 days total. That's what this contract is covering over 7 sites.
Yes.
Okay. And then how many students are involved in this?
Last year, we had approximately 150. So they're hoping, this is our second year doing this, so we're hoping to increase our enrollment this year.
And how do you judge the success of the program? What are the hallmarks of this successful program?
We want to continue to increase enrollment, so more kids being enrolled, and more opportunities would probably be one of the successes. And then feedback from the kids who actually partake in the program, so survey feedback, qualitative feedback from the kids to see to what extent they found it engaging and helpful, I guess.
And this is to fulfill a state mandate as well,
Yeah.
right?
Right, but there's probably other vendors who can also, like we saw at CSBA.
Oh, there's tons of.
Oh golly,
There's
right?
tons of, yes.
So I was just asking.
This is just one of the, and they help train our teachers too. So they're, once again, this is our second year using them, and just like we do with most of our programs, we kind of sit back at the end of the year, especially with the new LCAP, and we kind of evaluate the effectiveness of the program. If it's something that the teachers and students found engaging and helpful, that's something we typically would move forward with. If we get negative feedback, definitely from the teachers and the students, that this is something that we could probably do internally, then we kind of evaluate that and make decisions based on the feedback.
So it was 150 last year, approximately, right? For over 4 sites.
Yeah, so last year the intersection was offered at Lindcrest Park, Terra Buena was a development of approximately 150. This year we're expanding to Bridge Street, Lincoln King Avenue, and Riverbend. So we're expanding the actual sites from 4 to 7 this year.
Right. And it
Which
was
should
open to
increase.
it was open to everyone.
Yeah, it's open to every student.
Okay. And it's just the ones who,
Need daycare.
Are we doing a fairly decent advertising campaign for this, so kids know to come?
It's Parent Square, mostly. Parent Square, the school website. They get and they have wait lists.
Oh, okay.
And so
Okay.
we're hoping with expanding more locations more, we can open up more kids.
Okay, so 150 wasn't because that was all that was interested, that's just because that's
That's the
all we had the
capacity.
capacity for.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're
Okay.
looking at staffing
That's
ratio
good.
by state mandates, so that's why, being able to have more staff available to provide services will allow us to have more kids participate.
and they provide all the thing for $527 per site per day is what the math works out to. Right, Scott?
I'm gonna trust you on this one.
All right, you got it. So they're providing obviously the materials and the staffing,
Everything, all the
everything. Okay. All right, those are all my questions.
Can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second? Anybody want a second?
Second, sorry, I thought you said second. Oh, no, you weren't saying.
I was asking, kind of.
I'm getting used to your new role.
I am too. By a motion by Member Pretty and a second by Member Ciociola. What did I just call it? I don't know what I just said. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 13.4 Meteor Furniture.
As Mr. Principal Greco spoke with his Elizabeth Salazar using the Meteor furniture, it's doing great things for our kids in the classrooms when they use it as flexible learning environments. So this next iteration is for spring break. It's for our learning centers at Andros Carperos, our learning centers at Riverbend and Terra Buena, and our STC classes at AK, April Lane, Berry, Gray, and King Avenue. And so that'll be finished in the spring break, and then in the summer we would move on to our classrooms that didn't get finished last year, our K8 classrooms, our TKK classrooms. This specific quote is for spring break to continue the installation during spring break.
For all of our special education classrooms.
Thank you guys for including renditions of what the classes would look like in our Friday. Any questions? Can I get a motion?
I motion we approve.
And a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Member Orozco, second by Member Pretty. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 13.5, YCTA Sunshine for the initial proposal.
So we have before us
That's right.
Okay.
We have before us the sunshine proposal from YCTA to negotiate for the 24-25 successor contract.
Okay, any questions? Is there a motion?
I motion to accept the sunshine.
Second.
By motion by Member Orozco and a second by Member Ciociola. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. 13.6, first interim financial report for fiscal year 23-24 and budget revisions.
So if you don't mind, I'd like to, if we could, reorder these next 3 items. So this would be, I'd like to,
Do this after 13.7?
13A would be the resolution. Then the second one, 13.7 would be after that, and then first interim will be the third on those last. So
Sure.
do a little swap through
No
those.
worries.
Thank you.
That's a lot of reorganization.
Yes, I know, I'm sorry.
For this.
I won't do it till you go, until next
So
quarter.
I make the motion to,
So we're on 13.8, SCBA and skip resolution, which was brought up a little bit earlier.
Yeah, so really, the material was presented. I think Becky actually did an excellent job of kind of going through it all. If you
Do you want me to just talk about what each
that would
item
be
is?
super. Thank you
I
so
will go
much.
through there. I won't drive. The first item that you reordered to would be the resolution itself to consider joining the JPA and authorizing the use of SKIP. We may or may not need to go to the second item. If you decide not to authorize it, we wouldn't even talk about the second item.
Perfect. So, is there any questions about 13.8? Can I get a motion?
Brad, make a motion to approve 13A.
I'll second it.
That motion by member, Roscoe, and then second by member Pretty. Can I get a roll call, please?
Member Cianciolo,
Yes.
President Domi,
Yes.
Member Lamb,
Yes.
Member Pretty,
Yes.
Member Quilty,
Yes.
Member Orozco.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, motion carries. 13.7, the skip application for DR Horton project, Harder State South Division.
This would be specifically to authorize the use of the SKIP program for the DR Horton project for the 77 units and a dollar amount of $606,971 that would be provided to the district within the next 6 months.
Any questions? Can I get a motion?
I make a motion to approve the application.
I'll second it.
A motion by member Orozco and a second by member Pretty. Can I get another roll call, please?
Member Cianciolo,
Yeah.
Member Domi,
Yes.
Member Lamb,
Yes.
Member Pretty,
Yes.
Member Quilty,
Yes.
Member Orozco.
Yes.
Awesome. Motion carries. Thank you.
And we do need you to sign a certificate of the resolution for this item and all. It's kind of an affidavit for the public hearing.
Thank you very much. Okay, going back to 13.6, the first interim financial report for the fiscal year 23-24 and budget revisions.
Okay, well, thank you. Long board meeting, lots of financial stuff this time, so thanks for, thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
So, this is a budget update. What's that? Yeah, so we're gonna go through 470. First of all, this is an update to the budget. The budget we updated back in June, and we actually, of course, started working on the budget way before that. So it's quite a process. I need to thank Laura Esty and Thomas Patulli for all the hard work, who was in the audience today, because they do the heavy lifting. Of course, it's working with all of our departments and all our schools to make sure we have that budget right. But they do a lot of heavy lifting in this process. Reminder of the budget process, and this is one of those strange times of year. So we are at that first interim, pointing down to December, but we are also just, a few weeks away from January, and you can see the top of the budget process. We're going to start talking about the 24-25 budget. And we are also in the process of the fiscal team, whereas her team has finished the audit report, and that's going to be coming to you in January. So that's 3 different sets of financials that we are sometimes looking at. Last year's, what we're currently doing, and then next year's. And the budget is always a snapshot in time. It's just the available information at when we're creating the budgets. And you'll see some. So back in let's say April, May, and then we presented the budget to you in June. A number of things hadn't happened. We had not settled with our bargaining units. We did not know what our enrollment was going to be in the coming school year. And then since then, there's been a number of other changes to the budget. So that's why we always continue to update the budget. This is our first major update. We do another major update at second interim in March. So a couple of what I like to do. The format's very similar to what I presented in June. I'm going to identify some things that have changed, and also a reminder of what is in this budget. So when you look at our main funding source is the local control funding formula. The funded ADA on that is $10,852. That's an annual year-over-year decline of $320. Our LCF funds is $164 million. It actually is up some, and that is due to these extra dollars that we get in regards to some of our population. We get extra dollars in supplemental and concentration grants, part of the LCFF kind of funding formula. But that's based on students or families that come from economically disadvantaged situations, English learners or foster children. So those numbers we are anticipating to be a little up from what we settled for, we were projecting in June, and so we do see that number increasing by $1.2 million. The annual year-over-year increase in our LCFF is 5.2%, which is, and I mentioned that because if you look at my first line there, it says the cost of living per student is up by 8.2%. As we've been talking a lot, our enrollment is declining. Means our average daily, we're not funded on enrollment, but we're funded on attendance, which is a result of is a byproduct of enrollment. So you just see the disconnect. Even though our per student amount went up by 8.2%, we have other factors that bring that actual revenue, increase is only 5.1%. In this budget, this is kind of a reminder, but we do have a lot of COVID dollars in this, federal dollars and state dollars. We have about $25 million of extra revenue and expenses in this budget. And a lot of those numbers are being updated right now because we didn't know what the budget was going to be when we developed it in June. So really, both the revenues and expenses have gone up about $25 million. Because this is the last year of that funding source, so we're really updating with all the plans that we have right now for those COVID dollars. We also have some things that we didn't know back in June, and that is carryovers. So title programs, we have Title I, Title II, Title III. Those are federal programs that supplement school funding, and if we don't spend last year's money, we rolled over into the next school year. So that information we have now, so that's also a change, let's say, from the original budget. And special education, this was a very similar information from the first budget. The unfunded contribution, we do get revenue, state and federal revenue for special education, but it does not fund everything. And so we have to do a contribution from our unrestricted resources. That's just the money state can spend on anything into special education. That number is up a little under $2 million, but a lot of it's related to the raises that we recently paid out, so not a ton of change there. And let's move forward. This slide is pretty much the identical slide. The numbers, so this is an enrollment trend. You see 2015 down to really our projected years of 2026 or 25, 26. Those numbers haven't changed from when I presented the budget in June. However, you can kind of see that 24 year, the number that was projected was 11,494. Our actual enrollment was 11,463. So that's the new information we have right now, and that's what we updated in the budget. We'll be projecting enrollment when we roll out the new budget for the this coming June for 24-25. Those numbers, will be reflected in, with our new updated number there, but I don't anticipate them changing too dramatically from this. We still see a downward trend in enrollment. This slide hasn't changed at all, just kind of a reminder. Notable factors affecting our expenses. STRS and PERS, so these are the employer portion of the cost of hiring people in our industry. I just pointed out when we're in our original budget that we've seen our pension costs, the percent, go up over the years. This year we did not see an increase in STRS, but we did see there's pretty good increase to the PERS of 1.3%. Our budget is primarily payroll, so that's why this is important to when we have employer costs of pensions increasing, it affects what we can do in other areas. And of course, we still have significant one-time expenses in our COVID funds and some of our carryover dollars as well. So this is the whole revenue pie. So this is our unrestricted, restricted, all of our revenues, $241 million there. You will notice that the lower kind of right-hand slice of that pie, 68% is the local control funding formula. And then we have a federal and state slice that are also actually relatively large. What I mean by that is once these COVID dollars go away, you're going to see those slices tighten up a little bit. Not 14 to 15%, but maybe half that you might see. So as we move forward into projections, that's really more the trend. And expenditures, just kind of a visual on this. 266 million in expenditures, again, unrestricted and restricted. Parts to point out on this are the bottom kind of, the larger pieces of this pie are people, right? So we have certificated teachers and certificated administrators, classified salaries, that's all of our support staff, including myself, is in classified, and then benefits for both of those groups. That is always going to be the largest piece of the pie for school districts. With the COVID dollars, I will say that you do see a larger slices in services and supplies. As those COVID dollars go away, you'll probably see those slices also contract a little bit. And also, you'll notice that we have more expenditures than revenues. We'll get to that in the next slides. We did have a lot of kind of one-time stuff, spending down one-time and carryover dollars, and also the raises that we retro portions of the raises that we paid this year for last year. So these are the numbers. You can see how I kind of slice it into unrestricted and restricted, and then they just add up in a combined column on the right. A lot of numbers. I'm going to point out what I think are some of the more important things to look at in this slide. So at the end of the day, when you see the change in ending fund balance, that's really like, are we overspending or are we underspending? And that $28 million in brackets, I would normally come up here and say, that's not good. And generally it is not good. However, there's a lot of one-time things that we don't anticipate recurring that are in that. So a big portion of that is the retro pay. We settled for last year's negotiations this year, paid it all out this year. That is in that number. So to put this in perspective, last year when we closed the books, we had a lot dropping to the bottom line. Now we're spending it because it was really full last year. So that's roughly 12 million of that. And another $13 million is in part of the local control funding formula is a special grant for categories that I spoke to earlier. We underspent those dollars last year. That's not something we like to do, but to be honest, we have a lot of different kind of one-time funding sources, and putting it all to use is challenging. So we underspent that by $13 million. We do need to spend those dollars down, so that is in this budget as well. So that's $25 million of that $27 million or $28 million number. One thing, that's good. So this is at the end of the day, the ending fund balance. So at the end of the year, we're projecting our ending fund balance to be $64 million. I circled that 47 million, that is our restricted categories, and we'll talk about the restricted on the next slide. We have a state mandated reserve that we have to set aside for emergencies or uncertainties of $8 million. We have revolving cash, and we have this kind of unassigned at this point amount. So that all adds up to our $64 million. This is a breakout. So you see the bottom number is that $47 million that I was talking about. This is above that line. You see the breakout of what those categories are. These are a number of these, most of these are one-time funds, again, not associated with COVID, but associated with prior budgets that we have time to spend. The Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant, about $60 million. That I believe we have until 2027 to spend. It's restricted, so there's only certain areas that we can spend those dollars in, and that is Tina will probably be, talking to that at some point in the future here. Expanding Learning Opportunities Grant. This is after-school programs that we have some restricted dollars that we can use for those. And then a prior, again, restricted grant, art, music, instructional. I don't know exactly, I don't even know if that one has an end date, but those are the big pots of the restricted dollars that really are restricted in how we job is not just talking about the current budget we're in, it's a big, lots going on there, but we also have to look out several years, a couple of years. So current year plus 2. And we are now recently, let's say this last month, I'm sure you heard it actually down at CSBA, the economic environment has changed, has been changing. So I kind of circled the 24-25 cost of living adjustment for LCFF. What's in our current projections is what was provided as guidance, but that guidance has hence changed. So we're going to be, when you see us in second interim March, I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but it's the numbers that make up our minimum guarantee for what we're going to receive in funding. It looks like that's going to be 1%-ish as a projection. The governor always has the choice not to just to give us the minimum. It could be larger than that, but I'm not hearing that talk, so I'm not really too optimistic there. It's looking more likely people are talking in the 1% range. That's going to change our multi-year projections pretty significantly, and that will be updated at second interim, but I'll give you information in private letters as we get more information when it comes to looking at what the next year's budget is going to, some of these assumptions or what we're expecting in revenues there. We don't have we can't affect what we're going to receive in revenue. All we can affect is reacting to the revenue we're going to get as far as how we spend our dollars. So this is the multi-year projections. Busy slide, lots of numbers. I guess the only redeeming fact is if you look at the multi-year projection in the book, there's a lot more lines than that. But the first column is 23-24. We already reviewed that in the other slides. We covered that. So really the 24-25 and the second 2 columns are the columns to look at. And the yellow bar, again, is that change in ending fund balance. That's really at the bottom of really what you need to be looking at as far as the health of the district. But so you take your revenues less all the expenditures and financing transfers. That's the dollars that you get on our entire budget. I have these 2 lines in green because the unrestricted change in ending fund balance, the dollars that you have complete control over and are not restricted in any particular area is truly the health of the district, because those restricted resources and spending, you can only spend those in certain areas. So you really need to pay attention to your unrestricted change in ending fund balance and how much ending fund balance you have. I just need to point out that what you see is, we talked about the first column, so that change in ending fund balance, brackets, negative $27 million. But we also have reductions to the ending fund balance and projected at this point in the out years. And the bottom line is actually the ending fund balance. So at the end of 23-24 and the unrestricted, we're looking at about $17 million. If you kind of go to 24-25, we're deficit spending to the tune of almost $7 million. You see how that number goes down to $10 million. And then also deficit spending in 25-26. And that circled number, ending fund balance at the end of this 3-year period, is getting to the low point that is uncomfortable for a district. And that doesn't take in consideration the fact that we're going to be updating the revenue number to a lower amount, so it's going to change those as well. So, why? Well, again, kind of some of the trends we've been talking about. We have cost pressures going up, and we have revenue numbers coming down. It's challenging. These are part of some of the discussions that we're going to be going through as the board is how do we manage this situation? We are coming off all the COVID dollars. Those dollars are going away. And how do we kind of make this work going forward in a challenging economic climate? So that's going to be part of the future discussions of this district. These are other funds, Child Development Fund. So I would say probably if you look 4 lines down, I don't have it color coded on this one, but you kind of see the net increase, decrease to fund balance. You kind of see, the Child Development Fund spends a little over $6 million. They're looking at slight deficit spending. Child Nutrition Fund, I would say planned deficit spending there. Their ending fund balance is actually too high. We need to spend it down, so we have a spending plan to spend that down, and Chelsea is working on doing that, the director of child nutrition. The deferred maintenance and the Melrose funds, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here because these will probably be changing. When we spoke about the facilities master plan, we also said that we're going to be bringing forward a more of a plan on our deferred maintenance. And I really think that these numbers are going to change as a result of that. But at this point, we are spending down our deferred maintenance fund. We're spending about $5.6 million of that, leaving the ending fund balance of about $2 million. So I think that may change a little bit. So a little more to come on that one. And this is just kind of looking forward. I've told you, I'm going to tell you again. We have risked our revenue projections. At CSBA, my guess is you heard some concerns about kind of the economy and where things were going in the state budget. Part of the concerns were in 22-23, the timing of collecting state taxes, and so we didn't really know. The state didn't know. Nobody really knew what our taxes were going to be. That's what funds schools. And now they come in, and we're looking at about a $26 billion shortfall. So that's going to affect us. And we're looking at even more, more shortfalls in 23-24, and then projecting also shortfalls in 24-25. So a little doom and gloom on that side, but it's a little, we'll have to see. The governor's going to put out his proposed budget in January, so we'll have a lot more information at that time. COLA, I explained well too. We put in 4% here, but it's looking more like 1%. Declining enrollment, declining ADA. Inflation trend is, it's gone up a lot over the last couple of years. It has seemed to be leveling out, but costs are still up. I mean, the costs aren't going down. It's just the rate at which they're expanding has leveled off some. And as we know, we have a lot of facilities needs. I have one other slide that I have to show you after this, but you can kind of see my last bullet. I usually leave it at the first sentence. The district can meet its current and projected obligations done. But now, this may change a second interim. I'm going to show you the next slide, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So when I say the district can meet its current obligations in the next two, I'm talking about the first bullet there. We have a positive certification. We can meet our obligations. We don't see any issues there. There's two other qualifications that you can have, or certification that you can have. Qualified, which you may not meet our financial obligations throughout the 3-year period. And negative, we do not believe we will be able to meet our financial obligations within the next 2 years. So I really don't think we're going to be negative, but there's, we might be looking at qualified certification, so I don't know, but that's a possibility after we start looking at the numbers of that second interim.
It seems like one of the biggest driving forces for our revenues is enrollment and attendance. So what are we doing to try and get some of the kids back? I don't believe they've all moved out of the area. And what are we doing to promote more positive attendance? There was a lot of talk, all but one of the sessions I attended at CSBA was about either attendance or engagement, because both of those are at all-time bottom rock levels. So what are we doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. A little out of my wheelhouse, or maybe a lot out of my wheelhouse. I think that is a good conversation, but I'm not going to have a good answer for you tonight.
So I didn't necessarily expect you to completely, but it's just something I think all of us in this room, doesn't matter if you're on the board, on the cabinet, or in the audience, what are we doing to get kids back?
Yeah, we can provide an update. There's been a lot of work and a lot of intention on the part of the site administrators in terms of site visits and some other things in terms of getting enrollment back up. I think there is a combination of, I think we're not unusual. A lot of districts have seen this. You know, are they out in our community? Are they enrolled in other schools? We're kind of seeing some kids coming back, but we can certainly provide a report to you on that.
One of the things that they talked about quite a bit was parents are saying that they're homeschooling their children, but they're not actually doing anything.
Yes, we have a lot of those. And then again, trying to locate kids we hear in the community, but not coming to school.
Our attendance rate is way below the long-term historical average, but it actually, we were all hoping for a quick bounce back from COVID. That didn't happen. But it's up, I would say, marginally. I mean, I don't know the exact percent, we can get it, but it's, I would say, maybe 1%, that we've seen improvement. I mean, historically, the district's been more 90, 95, 94. I forget exactly what we have in there. I think it's more like 92, 93 that we have in these projections. But that's even up from what it was right after COVID last year. So we're up about 1% from just after COVID. We're hoping that we see a little bit more of a trend on that side, that we're getting closer to the long-term averages.
And do we see enrollment increasing because of the TK expansion?
Yeah, and that's factored into these into the enrollment projections, to be honest. So we do, as we get an additional 2 months, we get more. We did factor in additional TK enrollment through that in the projections.
I have a question. So I know Yuba City High School has a gentleman who does attendance, correct?
Clerk?
No. What is his?
Attendance liaison.
Attendance liaison. I would love to see like a job description of that job, what they do exactly as far as attendance liaison. Because we have one at my school, and he's on the phone.
Yeah, and we have a truancy officer who, through probation, who helps with, visits and going out to homes. But it really is, that can sometimes be perceived as negative. So it's really on the front end of helping families understand the importance of coming to school and the why. We still get a lot of, I think it's post-COVID, in terms of confusion about illnesses that we send them to school or not.
Right.
So it's working on it.
I did too good a job of telling kids to stay home if they have a
Yes, we
sniffle.
did. Yeah.
Sorry.
So I have a question about budget. And that is, well, actually it's more in practice. So when we get our board agenda and all the accompanying documents and the proposals for whatever we're buying, everything has a cost to it, right, Scott? And then when your name is on it, and of course Doreen's, there's usually says they recommend approval, right? For whatever the expenditures are. I just want to be black and white, that when we are looking at bringing on anything, any program, that sort of thing, we're looking at that, and that is a consideration, that whatever it is that costs money, we're saying we can afford it.
Absolutely, and that's, Doreen's probably pretty sick of me saying that, because that's exactly what I do all the time. And we all do, it's not just me. But everybody has to work within the budgets that are in that document, that in these projections. They have to work within their budget. We also have requirements, of course, to have contracts and those things approved. But they're working within the board approved budgets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
I'm good at cutting the costs.
Well, and Kirsten, you don't see the no's that happen because they never make it to you. And there's a lot of no's that.
But I just want to be sure, like if it comes here, right? I mean, because none of us are surprised. I mean, really, by that ending fund. We had that conversation a year ago, and earlier we knew the trend, and we all, like most of us, are readers, and we are seeing the economy, and we're seeing all of the economists' predictions, and there's a lot of personal, public, governmental belt tightening that will happen. Absolutely. And so I guess I just wanted to go on record as saying that when it comes here, right, like the Wellness Together, it is like we can afford it, and this is the best we can do with the problem and the money we have.
Absolutely, and behind the scenes, I'll tell you a little bit what kind of happens.
Yes.
Okay, so somebody, we need to do something, want to do something, and we say, okay, well, again, how do we work within our budget?
Right.
We start thinking about, okay, we'll do a budget adjustment, meaning we're reducing this budget and increasing that one to make that happen. A lot of that does happen kind of behind the scenes, but we're not going over the parameters of the budget, right? So as we know, you can't plan for every single thing you're going to do as a school year, especially when you plan the budget, let's say 18 months ago, whatever the time frame is. But
that's why we have a buffer built in.
There's some buffers, like all those unknowns, right? Absolutely. But there's a lot of, okay, so how can we make this happen? What's the most important at this point in time, and how do we make the most important things happen and not the less important?
And also, and just going off of that, right, when we do spend responsibly the money of the people who live in this community, because that's where it's coming from, is that we're also taking into account and saying, and that was a successful program. That, right? Like when we're looking at what constitutes, like I asked Tina, what would you say was how would you judge the effectiveness of this program?
Yeah.
Because to, talk about Shelley, I went to those CSBA meetings, and one of them I went to, which was for tech. Because I can learn too. And one of the things they did was a massive audit of all the licenses and all of the programs and all of the software and all of the things that just have that rollover, and then it's like one person's using this, one person that.
So that's funny too, because Tina and I, and actually Robert Cookman, so as we're planning for COVID going away and really operating on just our normal budget, there's a lot of things that were implemented that we have to start making the decision points on. Okay, so what are we going to continue, what are we not, and have a master. This is what we're using for all the different reasons, and that's the list we're doing. And that's what we're doing. That's what we have the budget for. That's again what everybody's doing, and to vary from that list really has to be a cabinet. We're going to really scrutinize that. So we've already been starting, actually, this last month and a half or so, starting to think about that for the 24-25 school year, because it takes a lot of planning to get there, and then this is part of the planning process.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Any other questions? Comments? Okay, motion.
I make a motion to approve the first interim.
Section.
Motion by member Roscoe and second by member Lamb. Can I get a roll call, please?
Member Cianciolo?
Yes.
Vincent County?
Yes.
Member Lamb?
Yes.
Member Cree?
Yes.
Member Peltier?
Yes.
Member Roscoe?
Yes.
Awesome, motion carries. 13.9, third reading of the 9250 remuneration, reimbursement, and other benefits.
Thank you. I bring this back to the board regarding bylaw 9250. I did share the actual ed code with you on Friday regarding that it's what it states, because I thought it was important that the board see the entire ed code. I also shared with you some opinions regarding board business, but there is the language in the ed code that says you shall, and then and there's allowable exceptions, but the board would need to state what those exceptions are. And generally, as I shared in my Friday, is that this education code, based upon two legal opinions, is related to required board business. And so I know this was a discussion item regarding CSBA, and generally legal opinion is CSBA is a voluntary conference that the board chooses to go to and not a requirement. But again, there is the language within the ed code that says there is some opportunity for you to make some definition of what those board requirements would be, but generally it was implemented and put into statute regarding required meetings. If there was a required special meeting that required your attendance to come to because there was an emergency, that would be a case where we would be reimbursing a district for a leave of absence. So,
Discussion
to you.
I can share my 2 cents. I did have a conversation with Superintendent Osumi. While I'm like, for the most part, for this, provision within Ed Code, I do have some concerns, and I appreciate having the 2 weeks to think about it. I'm a huge believer in equity, and I just don't feel like it's equitable that we have some board members potentially that could benefit from it while others cannot.
Right.
And so for me, that's just my hesitancy with it, in addition to, what the 2 cents of the legal opinions shared. I just feel like if there's a solution that is equitable for all board members, regardless of whether it's us or if it's, future board members or whatnot, I'd be more inclined to vote in a favorable manner towards that. That's my strike of the beach ball.
Well, I think one of the things too here that thank you for the clarity, thank you for doing that research on the legal end, because I think one of the ways that you all, the predecessors before me and the current board has looked at mitigating this is by making sure that all of our official board business is outside of working hours for the most part. If somebody's not, staying at their work till midnight doing a show. Sorry about that. But and I think that's one of the best mitigating factors that you all have set forth and continue to do. And I thank you for that. But I said all I needed to 2 weeks ago. And so
So we need a motion one way or the other, right? I believe.
Or if there's no motion, the item would die.
Okay.
I mean, it seems like it's gonna die, which is fine. As far as the equity goes, it's just, in the terms it gets to a little bit versus equity versus equality. One is kind of equality, and that some might not have those certain types of obstacles and not they're able to shift their schedule or, work a Saturday or work late, the disadvantage of being in a career such as this one is that you can't do that. I can't shift my schedule, but I'm fine with it. It was just something I brought forward for consideration. If it's not in the interest of the board, it's not in the interest of the board.
Is it in the interest of the board? No. Okay, so
with a motion to die.
Awesome. Or not.
sorry. First day on the job, it's okay.
Don't judge, Kate.
Never.
No judging.
Never.
Okay, so I know we have one more board agenda that we gotta go through, right?
Yeah, you can close this and then you would, the financial corp, you would open that in meeting.
Yeah, so do we wanna do 14, 15?
Yes.
Okay. Board reports, information, and discussion.
I just wanted to thank everybody. Oh, this is the board.
Committees, yeah. Okay, communications written from the public, none. Employee representatives. Yeah.
Well, good evening, board, staff, public, Zoom land. I know I've got some members on Zoom land. I'm Mercedes Geraldo, and I represent our classified staff here. And first of all, I'd like to thank you about the Wellness Together resolution of support. This is something that CSEA has actually intervened as well, and started the ball rolling last year, and actually recommended that we do some kind of a mediation or some kind of team building exercises to bring this team together so that they can work cohesively, because it is important that we all get along, right? So I look forward to the results of that, because I think it will be positive. This, we're coming to the end of the year here, right? And, we've been in school for a half a year and we've done quite a bit. In the fall here, we've successfully held our reclass meeting, showed our new staff through the process of it in that, and some folks got reclassed and some were recommended for new job descriptions, and some just, we're not quite working out of class, but we let her know that as well. And then most recently, last Thursday, we were able to sign off on our Me Too agreement, and I appreciate the board's support and listening to our concerns, and staff listening to our concerns and coming to a consensus. It's currently in what we call our 610 process, which is policy 610 under CSCA, and once we get that back, we'll be ratifying it. And then we'll come back to you. Let's see, in March, we will be sending 5 paraeducators to the para conference, and we're starting that registration process, so we're pretty excited about that. So we're really great classes being offered. And just, to recap the year, this is some things that our members have been doing, not all, and I apologize to anybody out there that I miss. But first of all, we've had members attend and complete our Union Steward Training Series, which means that we have more stewards out there to help with our employees and issues that they might have. Know your rights so that they do know their rights on the job. And site rep training program, our site rep training, we're having another one after the first of the year to get our site rep training up and running properly. But our employees have also made sure our students were safely transported to and from school and to all their events throughout the school year. That, their tummies were fed, that they're not going to school hungry, that they can focus on learning in the classroom because they've had a nutritious meal. We've supported our students both academically and emotionally. We keep them safe on campus, as our Brian Fernandez, one of our campus supervisors. Our campus supervisors out there do an amazing job connecting with our students, trying to build some rapport and helping them to make some right choices, and calling them out when they're not making quite the right choices. They keep our classrooms and our campuses clean and groomed, which is so important, that they come into this warm, this inviting environment that's clean, ready to learn, so that our teaching staff doesn't have to worry about if their trash is overflowing and that sort of thing. So we've hurdled many IT issues and challenges over the last 6 months, but I think that we're starting to see those calm down. I bet you that ticket number's way down now, so they're doing a great job out there. Keep our schools running, our office staff, our payroll department, our staff here at the district office. There's just so many behind the scenes people that are classified employees that are here to support our students, to support our staff, to support that learning environment. So just give kudos to all those classified employees out there. And regardless of however you choose to celebrate the holidays, or not, your choice. I wish you the best of holiday season, and I hope that you all get to spend time with your family and friends and loved ones. Thank you.
Good evening, Dina Lickens, President of the City Teachers Association, and good evening, board members, members of the public, and staff. It's the lateness of the hour, and you still have another meeting to attend. I'll try and keep it brief. I would like to address that I've been in my position for a long time, and remember when the labor partners sat at the table with the board. I remember the times when this board encouraged public participation in board meetings. I mean, I bring that up tonight just because I would love to have addressed this in a more timely manner, but I would like to address Member Pretty's interest in that culinary program that was across the street from Yuba City High School. Not only is that a possibility at Yuba City Unified, but so much more is a possibility. I want to recognize our both Tino and Martin in their work on our CTE program. Our CTE program, with the leadership at the district office and our teachers in place, brings real world learning to our students, for career and technical education. In addition to that, the district is bringing in work-based leadership teachers on special assignments who will work part-time on further developing our programs to put our students out in the classroom to do work-based learning. And part of that would involve being out there to engage in actually practicing those culinary skills right in our community, developing the work skills to leave our schools and go out and get meaningful employment. There's exciting things, and that ties into the new courses that you approved this evening. They represent a lot of work on the part of employees to revamp some of our courses to get them in line with the pathway and to refine the work we're doing to serve our students. So there's exciting stuff in there. I'd like to particularly highlight the construction pathway that began this year at Yuba City High School and will continue as it has a concentrator class and a capstone class. We'll be able to send our students out into the community with a vitally important skill to be able to work in the construction industry. But even if they don't work in the construction industry, they may go on to be homeowners and need to have those skills as well. So we're doing some great things for kids, that we are really recognizing the fact that we are educating a whole child. We are educating a whole child to send them out into a very diverse world. So I want to recognize the great work that's being done there. I'd also like to address the calendar. I appreciate the work with, again, Assistant Superintendent Tina Guzman. And with regards to the calendar, this does represent a collaborative effort. Member Pretty asked what teacher input was. Our input was included in the development process. We were actively engaged. We were asked for our input. I will tell you that we did survey our members. We provided that survey data to the district, and it was considered. This is the right way to do things. We're doing them together. We're talking to each other. There's some great things in that new calendar, one of which was already addressed. These are great things for educational reasons, as well as some smooth operations. But that PD day on November 1st is always when you ask teachers what they want. That's a biggie. We tell them, look, it's really hard to get it for you when it's on a Wednesday. It's really hard to tell parents, yeah, you got a random Wednesday off. They don't know why we took that random Wednesday, but it might be hard for childcare. So putting it on November 1st on a Friday is a great thing. And then the other thing when you ask teachers is, what's the good first day of school? The first week of school is always kind of a little challenging. There's a certain amount of exhaustion, and you're out of shape. Not just us, but the kids in our return after summer break. And Wednesdays and Thursdays are the best day. This calendar represents a Wednesday start date. So that's another really good thing. And there's been some interest over the years that, we keep starting earlier and earlier. I'll tell you, I started this district in 1990, and my start date is August 28th. So that tells you, I didn't miss any days. So we keep starting earlier and earlier. This calendar represents a week later. That might help us make sure our students all return from their summer break. It does represent a shorter winter break. And I would encourage us, we did ask members, and of course, as Tina said, we're not going to make everybody happy, but by far, people were in favor of a later start. I do encourage us to gather data as we go on as to does a 2-week versus a 3-week impact student attendance. Because even if they'll take a 4, anything we can do that gets our kids in our classrooms is critical to their success. And then you acted tonight on YCTA Sunshine. YCTA's contract expires in June 2024. That means we will engage in what we call full book negotiations for 24-25, which means that either party can open any number of articles in the contract. You'll see we opened significant numbers. Some of them are minor things like, we have to change the recognition clause because we now represent social workers. So some of them are minor, and some of them are significant. We have a strong interest, and always have, in class size. That this district has a strong interest in class size. This district have made significant commitments to smaller class sizes. We just want to continue to work on that, and safety continues to be a high priority for all of us in this workplace. And then professional development. That's another area where, again, working with Ed Services, we believe we can continue to improve professional development, keeping it relevant and appropriate for all employees. And then finally, I'd like to address that another project we're excited to collaborate with the district on is continuing to work on our new teacher supports. As the labor shortage continues, we are as some of us are considering retirement, we're going to continue hiring lots of new teachers, many of whom don't have credentials yet. So we want to be a part of having the conversations of how do we support somebody who steps into the teaching job without any of the teacher prep. This job is really hard when you're going through a credential program and you get lots of skills, but that gets really hard. So we'd like to be part of all of that. And then finally, I'd like to wish you all happy holidays. I hope you will be able to enjoy some time and with family and have a wonderful Christmas, a happy New Year, and I intend to take some time away and enjoy my family. So have a great holiday. Thank you.
Okay, comments from board members?
I just have a couple. I know that Miss Mercedes' birthday was just recently. Happy birthday. And I know Miss Lamb's birthday is really soon. Happy birthday.
No.
No.
Come on. She really wants to spend her birthday here.
No, I don't.
We're close.
Like
2.5 hours.
Okay.
Maybe we could just take the next one really slow.
Yeah.
Kirsten?
I know, thank you.
Superintendent?
The only thing I'd like to bring up is we are going to resume, if some of you may or may not know, but we have a sister city in Japan. And in February, generally we send a delegate. This is our partnership with Yuba City Unified and the City of Yuba City with the sister city. We send our delegation in February and they send their students and adults over in October, generally around Halloween. And so that will resume this February. I'm working with Spencer Morrison from the city, and it looks like we're going to try to take, they do an application process, 8 students, and so they usually get a group rate, and then delegates from the city and from the district go over to Japan. You stay with the host family, so it's a fun experience. I was always hesitant, and then when it was probably one of the best things I've done. So I will, if you are interested in possibly going, let me know and I will get you the information.
Cool.
This is in February.
I would love to.
Me too.
You would have fun.
Yeah.
It's very fun.
I would love to go.
You might not eat anything, Jonathan, but
I would.
just she would.
I didn't know we had a sister.
You're not teasing, you're telling the truth.
The truth hurts sometimes, and it's hurting right now.
The families are very accommodating, so.
Yeah, no, I think I would
be fine.
You bring along
Honestly, I would be interested.
Me as
I
well.
will get you the information. Linda Cody, a former principal of ours, she's involved in the foundation, but it is, the kids have an amazing experience, and so do the adults. Again, me who is not a traveler, I survived it. It was probably, like I said, it was probably one of the best things I've ever done.
Cool. All right, so the next regularly scheduled board meeting is January 9th, 2024. Our open session is going to be at 7. So we're going to adjourn this meeting, go to the next one, but I guess I need a motion to adjourn.
And so motion.
Second on motion by member Ciuciola and a second by member Lamb. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. Okay, so